Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and in today's video we're going to talk about delves. So delves are a new feature coming in War Within, and they are the third endgame pillar, joining dungeons and M+ for PvE players. This is replacing PvP in the Great Vault slot, so PvPers are getting increased conquest gains and stuff, and they can just buy everything they want with conquest. No more Great Vault needed for PvP gear. But PvEers instead, there is delves. Now, delves are, I think it's easiest to describe them as they're sort of like, you go through like a little 10, 15 minute, kind of like a big quest, sort of, in a various caves. There's like 12 different delves, plus a secret 13th delve at the highest level of difficulty. And the rewards for doing this are you can get up to hero track gear in your Great Vault. And you can also get some reasonably good stuff at the end of a delve. You get like Whelpling's Crest. You can get these things called Undercoins that can be used, I think, to buy Warbound gear, is what I heard of those, but I don't think that's in beta just yet. And they're kind of, short little fun runs. There are some powers that make you more powerful, which is what powers do. But otherwise, you're kind of mostly just killing some monsters, and there's a couple of mechanics you need to worry about, and a lot of mechanics that you can kind of ignore, especially as you start going deeper in, because you also have a companion with you, Bran. So you can do delves either by yourself or with people, with a group of whatever size you like, up to, not a raid group, but a party, any amount of people. But Bran will also accompany you, and you can make him tank or you can make him heal or DPS, but not tank. He's a hunter, and if he's healing, he'll like throw these little health pots at you. If he's DPSing, he'll have some more DPS abilities instead. He can also like randomly cleanse you and trank shot mobs and do all that kind of stuff. And you can outfit him with these curios that let him do some other abilities as well. You can kind of customize him that way. And he levels up after every run, so he'll get new abilities, get a little bit more powerful, and that's like kind of permanent progression that you can get. Now, again, in terms of the difficulty here, it's not too intense. This is a tier 8 delve. Delves are tiered from 1 to 11, but the rewards stop scaling past level 8 in terms of power level. So if you want the maximum Great Vault rewards from this, you only need to do tier 8 delves. And those are just hero track level rewards as well, which means that if you're a player who's capable of filling your vault with myth track rewards, then you may not even need any delve content. As soon as you're capable of getting some myth track options in your vault, you may decide, yeah, what do I care about getting some extra hero track items in my vault? At which point delves instead you would just do for fun and or for customizations, which there's a lot of transmog type stuff. There's a customizable mount, a dirigible thing that you can earn by doing delves as well. So that sort of content. There's like a delve, seasonal progression pass as well. Not like a battle pass you buy or anything like that, but one of those things where you're sort of slowly filling a bar over the course of a season and getting some new rewards along the way. So, is this any fun? Yeah, I can see where the fun's going to come from here. It's worth noting that any discussion of this kind of content, inherently, I'm not the target audience for delves. But that's not to say that I haven't enjoyed single-player content in WoW before. In particular, Withered Training Scenario at the start and Horrific Visions at the start were both pretty fun for me because those were both quite challenging, fun little solo progression experiences. I don't think you're going to get too much of that from delves. The higher tier delves beyond 8, they didn't feel too mechanically interesting. There's not a time limit. There is a death limit that does get harsher as you go past level 8. You only get to 3 deaths by the time you're at a tier 11 delve. And then once you run out of those deaths, you lose some rewards. You lose the Great Vault progress. So you do want to try and avoid running out of those deaths. The lower tier delves don't even have a death timer at all. The very low, like the ones below tier 8, I think. So it's not, if you can do the more casual versions of this without any of that kind of pressure. But yeah, so I don't think it's going to scratch much of that Horrific Visions, progression, mechanical intensity. There are some mechanics that exist in delves. There's a few frontals here and there that are important. There's a few other things that you'll need to manage. In this particular delve, I've got a stacking debuff that I need to sort of get. I need to get my air purifier on. You can see I've got 48 stacks of this now, and it's reducing my max HP until I get my air purified, which you can do at these air purification stations all through this delve. There's sort of mechanics like that in a lot of delves. Like there's one where an airship is going to fire at you if you walk into the targeting of it, that it can see you. There's one where you get a candle that's actually very similar to this air purifier thing, where the candle's light radius slowly degrades, and you start getting a stacking debuff, and you can't see very far if you run out of candle. So each delve has sort of one kind of macro mechanic of the delve, one thing you do need to think about the delve that way. And then a lot of the mobs will have like an ability that matters. Some will, a lot won't. There were a lot of like one-shotty frontals at the higher tier delves, which was maybe fine. I kind of think maybe those shouldn't be one-shots, but should be punishing without being one-shots. And I will say that the damage balance as well on beta was a little bit, like when I did this on a clothy, it was nasty. You're just getting auto-attacked for like a huge chunk of your health bar, whereas when I swapped over to tank, that stopped being a problem at all. So that's something I think they should look at. They should make it, in my opinion, so that DPS specs that are doing this, especially clothy DPS without self-sustain, because if you're playing like a Windwalker or a Havoc Demon Hunter, you've got so much self-sustain. You've got a natural kit for doing this kind of content. But if you're playing like an Arcane Mage, which I did, you have very little self-healing, anything like that, and Brand doesn't actually do all that much healing. He does a little, but not enough to sustain you through how hard these things auto. So I think they should make them auto less hard, and maybe move some more danger into like swirlies and frontals that you can dodge. But I don't think they should be all like one-shotty frontals. I think just do a couple of ground abilities and stuff, make it so that none of them one-shot you, except on the very highest tier delves maybe. But they do hurt, and you can't just completely AFK and stand in them. I think that would be a good place to take this, but definitely I can see how that, like, I can see this being reasonably fun. You can see this little fight I'm doing here against an elite and a rare. I've got some stuff I'm trying to think about. I'm dodging these various frontals. This frontal I didn't dodge, and nearly took me out very quickly. If I wasn't playing a tank spec, that would have taken me out very quickly. So definitely some potential with that. There are also these like Torghast style powers that you can pick up in various parts of delves, like that one that I've got here. And there are a few different ones. There aren't that many yet on beta, but they are a lot better than they were in alpha. In alpha, there would be a lot of these powers that lasted for 1 minute, and I thought that was really bad. The ones here on beta actually last for the rest of the delve, or they last until you fail a condition, like the one that I just picked up there lasts until I drop below 2/3 health. But they're reasonably powerful. Like there's one that lets you double jump and gives you a heal over time effect thing. I think they should lean into those more. They should make more of those kind of powers. They should make them more fun. They should make you feel more OP, especially in lower tier delves. And I think that can kind of move the lower tier delves into like some fun content where you're just blasting mobs. You get some kind of OP power. You have a good time. Unlike Torghast powers, they don't tie into your class. They're just kind of default ones, which means that every one they make is going to give them much more value from a design perspective than in Torghast. If you think about Torghast, they needed to make these powers, and they needed to make powers for every class, every spec, every Covenant class combo. And so every one power they made that filled those conditions, only like 1/12 of the player base would ever see. Whereas here, they're just making generic powers that are kind of cool and for everybody. I do think they need to add a lot more of them, and they need to probably raise the coolness and funness quotient of those. Again, especially the ones that appear in the lower tier delves. And I think that would help make them a little bit more like, you feel a little bit more like you're blasting, like you're having a good time rather than just sort of doing a long, boring world quest, which I think this does have some danger of feeling like that, which maybe that would be fun for some set of the player base. Maybe there are people that are interested in that, but for me, I think taking it in a like if we don't want the Horrific Visions giga hard progression thing, which I can understand why we would maybe not want that, I think we should go in the direction of like, yeah, you hop into these delves and like you get some powers that are sick, and you're just you're inside the delve and you are exploding and blasting. There's also a lot of One thing that we didn't really get to test well on beta was the scaling. The item level scaling was done automatically in here, so as we tested the higher tier delves, our item level got better. When I tested the low tier delves, my item level was basically questing gear, and now in this tier 8, I'm in pretty much normal raid level gear. It's auto scaling on beta. So it doesn't really do that great a job of showing what the difficulty curve is going to be like. But given how I'm scaled here to like eye level 600 in these tier 8 delves, I do think they are going to pose a reasonable like numbers challenge to do tier 8 delves early in the expansion, early in the patch. So that might be something to look out for as well. But again, you get hero track gear at the end of these things. So there's also some really good tech in here that they should use in other places. You may have seen as I've been running through this delve, there's these summoning stones scattered throughout there, and as you approach them, your graveyard updates. You get a new repair spot if you want there. You get a new spot where you can customize Bran at every one of those checkpoints you find, and there's like 2 of them per delve, and a delve is like 10 minutes. That tech would be really good to put into M+ dungeons if your graveyard could just update. And in particular, your graveyard updating being something that happens visually. Like when you find a graveyard update in a delve, you know you've done it. Whereas in M+, you kind of have to learn where the graveyard update's at. And that can be a pretty big, I think, barrier to getting into M+. Not necessarily getting into M+, but being good at M+. Involves knowing when you're supposed to release and when you're not supposed to release. And there's not really a consistent rule about what updates your graveyard and what doesn't in M+. So I think that would be really neat. There's also some cool like alerts and UI stuff in delves. Let me see if I can find this. Back here somewhere. Yeah, look at this. Okay, Bran got knocked unconscious on this fight. And look under his health bar, he's got like this ticking down unconscious timer that shows you when he's going to be active again. That, I think, is really sick tech that if Blizzard wants us to, wants to make like private auras, wants to make us not use weak auras for stuff, things like that, deploying that tech for some private aura mechanics, I think could be a really good way to make them playable without needing weak aura support. So that's another thing that I think is really cool innovation here in the delves. So overall, I guess my take on delves is I think that they are in a reasonably good place already. I think they do need to flesh out the number of cool powers you can run into in these. But overall, it seemed reasonably good. They should make them, I think, a little bit less about getting auto-attacked super hard and a little bit more about mobs having, they don't have to be hard mechanics, but just some swirlies and stuff to dodge, some frontals. They can be slow, but just, I feel like the auto attacks being where so much of the damage comes in these delves is nasty, especially for non-tank players, because that's just, there's kind of not much counterplay besides kiting, which is, sort of a nasty play pattern that I don't think I think if delves sort of devolve into you're doing a high tier delve and you're just kiting around mobs and trying not to get autoed, I think that would be pretty bad. So I think they should look into that. And yeah. Other than that, I think they're pretty good. I don't know. I think this is pretty fun. I think that it's not something that you're going to have to do, which makes it a lot better than previous systems of this type, right? When you think about systems like Torghast, Torghast would be maybe something that you could have a little bit of fun doing a run or two of, but you had to do like 12 runs in the first week and then 6 runs every week after, or something like that, right? Like you had to do so much of it, and you had to do it in such a strict regimented fashion, whereas delves have very little, that is kind of forcing you into doing them, especially that's forcing you into doing the higher level delves, the ones that are harder, that are more dangerous. So I think that was really smart. I think that making the rewards stop at level 8 and have the difficulty and cosmetics and stuff be at the higher tiers. I'm not even sure how much exclusive cosmetics there are in the higher tiers as well. It might just be more currency and stuff that you're getting. I think that's really good. I think especially in those higher tier delves, if they shift more of the difficulty into mechanics and out of auto attacks, I think that would be really good, especially for the higher tier delves, but even for the lower tier delves, I think that would be a good decision. Anyways, those are just some of my thoughts on the delves. Let me know if you have any questions about how these work. I got a lot of questions when I was streaming this about how exactly these work. I've tried to kind of answer the most common ones in this video, but I'm sure that I've missed some. I'm sure that there are things that you're left confused about how this is going to fit into the endgame ecosystem. So I guess the TLDR there is You can get some extra heroic gear in your Great Vault by doing these. You probably don't have to do this if you're able to get Myth Track in your vault. I think the end of run in the Delves stuff is like, champion track tops. I think in order to get the good stuff from the end of a delve as well, you need to have a key going into the delve to be able to open those chests at the end, because some of the chests are openable and some require you to have a key for them. So that's going to potentially involve getting those keys, which I think come from like the outdoor world and stuff, which means that you don't just spam delves, right? It's like you get the keys in the outdoor world and then you go do the delves, and you have kind of an ecosystem that's centered around the outdoor world, centered around content you can be doing by yourself or with people. And I could definitely see myself using these as part of my alt gearing, lifestyle on characters that previously would just be bumming 20s off of my friends for the first few weeks. Instead, maybe I'll do some delves for a little bit, get some slightly more respectable item level, earn some warbound gear from my mains, delving, and then mail that over to my alts, do some delves for them for a few weeks, get some hero track in the vault, and then, kind of got a pretty geared character that's ready to not be too embarrassing in M+ or something, without having to do any content that was hard, right? Like, without having to do any content that involved group finder or that kind of stuff, and all content that you can do while watching Netflix, right? You could do a delve and just be vibing, be laid back, be relaxing. I think there's definitely a place for that, but I do think it does matter that there are some right and wrong ways to do this, and in particular, if it ends up being just a boring slog where you're kind of auto-attacking and doing your rotation on a bunch of mobs that are target dummying you and auto-attacking you back, that would not be as good as if it was instead a little bit less based around the auto-attacks and a little bit more based around having a little bit of stuff to dodge. I think would keep this a little bit more, which there is some already. So anyways, I'm rambling at this point, so I should stop this video. Hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.